Okay, I think we are on live now. Good. So, hello everyone. This is Isaac Hongya Wu again. And as you can see, I haven't been doing a video for the past 3 weeks or so. Again, was due to the fact that my wife is occupying this room since she has to get home. And life is getting a little bit difficult nowadays due to the COVID issue. So, and as you can see, my hair is getting long as well. Haven't been taking a haircut for a while, and I promised my wife to take a haircut by the end of this month. Now we are still struggling, and she's saying that I should take this haircut by this weekend, but whatever, we'll see. So today I will be talking about a matter which is given the light of the stress, especially the psychological mental stress that each and every one of us are experiencing, the importance of safety due to agitated, angry, and upset customers. So today I will share about a little bit about what kind of so-called dangerous situation I've ever been to, and some of my thoughts and tips on what to do when reacting to such information or this kind of environment or circumstances. Now, to begin, let's share about a few examples of how things might get nasty and dangerous. Some of them are from what I heard, but those are hearsay. But personally speaking, I think, very rare, but quite a few time where the whole assignment actually get out of control and it's getting, it's not what I expected. As the interpreting assignments go by, the most common one is how the emotion of your client changes. Okay, everyone, especially the non-English speaker, the NES, he or she gets a little bit too emotional, excited, scared, sad about whatever they're talking about. This is especially common when it comes to talking about the victim of crimes, or when it goes to seeking protections or visa renewal in Australia. These two are quite often happen, and the more common scenario is over the phone. Something to do with welfare, well-being, settling, health, palliative care. Sometimes even someone is experiencing difficulties in paying the utility bills. It gets really emotional. If the client, especially maybe it's due to cultural issues where the client do not get what he or she wants, they get a little bit too emotional. They start screaming, crying, using nasty words, and even begging, or all kind of things happen. So today I would like to share a little bit about what I've seen and what should we do from my experience to mitigate the negative effect of unexpected, nasty, emotional clients. Okay, so hope you enjoy. So first of all, what may you experience and what may you expect to see when you're doing interpreting? So things such as like victim of crime. These kind of people, they usually have to, go back to what they've been through, the trauma, the injuries, what they've been through, how the bad guys, how the criminal hurt them. These are very common. Okay, this basically 100% of the time they have to talk about what happened to them in a police station or to a counselor. So these may get a little bit emotional. Could be sadness, could be fear. Usually it's two. A bit of anger as well. So the most difficult thing about emotional, difficult clients is that it's getting hard for you to interpret because they begin to talk in an incoherent way, incohesive way, where they have bits and pieces of languages, sentences put together. The train of thoughts get broken almost constantly. So you might hear concepts and things that are seemingly irrelevant to each other being said. Okay, these are that's the hard part. Linguistically speaking, is try to make sense of what is said, and it's very hard for me to tell you that okay, just interpret whatever you hear. Well, sometimes that may be the case, but the longer it goes, the more confused you become. Or maybe this person was talking about how she was being battered by this criminal on the face, and all of a sudden began to talk about, oh, that day I was cooking my dinner, and then I was cooking this, cooking that, making the fish, putting all the marinade on it. That sounds pretty odd, isn't it? But it really happens. Victim of crimes or someone who goes through psychiatrists in their or psychologists in their appointments, right? They get very agitated, they get very confused, and sometimes they come up with a lot of irrelevant and seemingly unrelated things that pops up. And the important thing is, as an interpreter, it is not our job to make sense of what he or she says. Our job is to try to understand what this person say and try to, grasp the meaning of it, or if you cannot, at least just grasp the literal meaning of what your client just said and try to interpret into English. And let the professional, the person who is counseling, the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the police officer, policeman, let them figure out what's the real meaning of all those, rambling and babbling of words. Okay, that's rule number one. Do not try to interpret. When people get emotional, okay, what you can do is you can look at your client and try to imitate the emotional. If your client raise the volume, when you interpret, you can raise the volume. When the client is talking in broken languages, you can try to write down what these broken languages on your notes and just try to interpret all the broken languages, no matter where it is. Even during the tribunal, you can do that. Mental health tribunal, I've been to that before. You are actually prefer, or if not required, to usher your interpretation at the same way as what your client says. Okay, so that the professional can deduce what exactly the client is thinking or trying to do. So that's very important. Try not to make sense of things. If it gets too emotional, try not to make sense of things. Try to go with the emotion. Given that you understood what they say, this is hard because sometimes, especially in broken languages, that doesn't make sense or it doesn't link up. It's hard for you to first grasp the meaning, and it's really hard for you to also repeat because basically your client is going in the emotional flow. He or she might not be able to remember what he or she just said. And when you ask them to repeat or pause them, it might just break the linkage, break this flow of communication. And this is, in a way, not very helpful to the whole process, but, it's necessary, or else you couldn't even catch what was being said. And that's pretty bad. And secondly, besides the broken languages, besides the brokenness of the meaning, sometimes your client will go on and on forever. This is very common on telephone interpreting. This may not be a counseling or psychiatric appointment. It's basically just your client complaining how expensive the utility bill was, how long they were waiting for their visa being processed, and they went on and on, talking about irrelevant stuff, talking about how it affects their life, affects their move, affect their their family, their travel plan, and they might just go on and on forever. And firstly, you cannot, catch the logic of what they say. Secondly, if someone goes on for 3 minutes, it's quite understandable that you wouldn't be able to remember everything he or she said. And to have an accurate interpretation, you may either just tell the English-speaking professional that unfortunately this is how much I could remember. That doesn't sound really good. And like myself, for example, what I do is I would just have to ask your client to repeat what he or she said. especially if it's a Chinese client. Chinese language, to be honest, if you talk about in a strict manner, right? Chinese syntax and grammar is quite succinct. Okay, it's basically not as clear cut as in English, where subject, verb, object, not really as bad as that, but you can actually go quite succinct. But on the other hand, maybe not as bad as Arabic, where they can go on wow, whatever, wow, whatever. But Chinese, especially when clients get very excited and they try to grab up all the, concept to put into one story, and they go on very fast and they put on a lot of different concept into one big chunk of, speech or sentences. It's very hard for you to grasp what happened. Okay, so that is difficult because you just have to, politely ask them, oh, excuse me, can you please pause? Let me interpret what you just say. And I know it's very hard to find out the right point of interruption. And, ask them to pause. It's okay. And, to interpret. And if it went on for too long, if you really couldn't catch the whole story, my idea is that first interpret what you could get to the English speaking professional, and secondly, be honest. Don't think that you might look stupid or look unprofessional, but actually to be the professional way of dealing with this kind of matter, prolonged speech, broken languages, incohesions of concepts and languages. The best way to do it is tell the English speaking professional, the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the police officer, telling that, oh, sir, look, I couldn't catch everything he said. This is what I can get. I'll tell you. Or if really what you heard or what you remember doesn't really make sense, it's absolutely okay for you to say, sir, madam, I couldn't catch everything he said. He or she went on for too long, to enable for me to accurately interpret what I heard. May I ask him to repeat in the shorter sentence? And sometimes, if you do it for 2 or 3 times, or sometimes even once, the professional person actually, they will work with you. They will constantly remind the non-English speaker, no matter who that is. Could be a lady yakking about what her husband did to her and batter her or hit her. Well, anyone, they could, because they want to get the job done, they will constantly remind your non-English speaking client to keep it succinct, keep it, nice and short, not in terms of the content, but in terms of the sentences, the length, of how much they say. So this is how we should treat it. Try to be smart. Don't take all the stress to yourself. Try to remember the fact that we are just a mouthpiece as an interpreter. Actually, this sort of stress should be actually directed towards the professional person, the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the police officer. They are the one who supposedly should face all this, stress. And by interpreting, we kind of take it on ourselves, and because we are professionals, sometimes we talk in a professional way, try to talk in a logical way. We actually have to filter out part of this stress. You don't have to do that. To be honest, if I was taught by one of my friend, I think his name is Henry. He just told me that don't worry, if there are unusual pauses, unusual use of word choice or languages, or even hesitation, you just copy exactly, mimic what your non-English speaking client is trying to do. Just mimic them, okay, and let the professional to figure out what's the meaning behind all those broken words. So that is a very important tip. Don't take it all to yourself. Try to just you can take notes like this, get a notepad and write down concept A, concept B, concept C, concept D, and try to just usher it in a way that your client says. So no matter how anxious or angry they are, you basically just try to grasp the meaning and try to usher the meaning. And sometimes, if you want, you can follow the flow. If this person starts screaming, you can scream to the professional. Well, not exactly like screaming, but raise your volume a bit or talk in a way that is hostile. That's okay. That actually conveys the meaning, the real meaning, the non-linguistic meaning of your clients to the professional person as well. So it's actually pretty good if you can maintain this consistencies of meanings and non-verbal meaning as well. So you can do that, and that actually help us, the interpreter, to relieve part of our emotional stress from the client. And this is so common nowadays. So sometimes within an hour or so, I can pick up 6 or 7 telephone interpreting assignments in regarding to the Department of Health and Human Services, calling those people in isolation or in hotel quarantine. And mostly it was quite easy to just asking, how are you feeling today? Do you have the symptoms of coughing, fever, chest pain, that kind of thing? But sometimes the clients get a little bit excited. They actually, these people who are placed into hotel quarantine, these people, they are absolutely fine. They are just everyday people who came back from overseas, and they've been placed under quarantine, and they can get anxious about it. They can get agitated. They can start complaining, rambling about things that it seems irrelevant to the whole conversation. It's okay. The problem for us sometimes is we sometimes take it personally. Okay, the important thing is don't take things personally, because imagine the person who's complaining in the hotel quarantine, they are complaining to the officer of the Department of Health and Human Services, try to complain so that they can get what they want. Okay, you can see it as their tactics. You can see it as a genuine complaint that they had enough of the hotel quarantine. That's okay. Now, we don't have to take it personally. This is not directed toward the interpreter. It's directed toward the staff from DHSS. Okay, so so don't take it personally. So if you hear screaming, if you can hear nasty words, it's okay. Just jot down these words, jot down the meaning of what they say, and assure exactly, if possible, what the non-English speaking client said. So try to be neutral, emotionally speaking, okay? And and try to don't take it personally. This person is not directed toward you; it's directed toward the staff from DHHS. So it's okay. So it's just you try to, as accurately as possible, interpret what the non-English speaking person said, even if he or she was swearing, using nasty words, getting threatening. You can do that. You can definitely do that as well. I remember there was a case back 2 weeks ago where the client basically he lost his own logic. He couldn't really fully express himself, or maybe he doesn't really know how to describe things, right? He's given me a lot of bits and pieces, and I'm fine with that. I basically write down, make a few notes of all the bits and pieces, and can interpret exactly what he or she said. He said to the staff from the energy company, which is fine. Okay, it's up to the operator from the energy supply company to make sense of what he or she hears, or request the client to sort of put things in logic and retell the story properly. Again, it's up to them to do it. It's not up to us to sort of try to understand what they say and try to put it in a logical way. Don't do that. That only increases our stress. So in case of stressful, dangerous, or this COVID pandemic situation where everyone are getting so stressful, a lot of your clients are getting very upset. They lost their logic. They lost their train of thought. There are so many bits and pieces of ideas that come out that it's sometimes impossible for you to make sense of everything. So what you need to do is catch the few keywords and usher the exact same way, the non-logical way as possible to the English-speaking professional. That's fine. That's your job. You don't have to make sense of what he or she said. Okay? And don't get personal. Sometimes the English-speaking client or the non-English-speaking client, they get very personal. A few days ago, there was someone needs to book an appointment with a Honda dealer for airbag replacement. Maybe the signal was broken, or all of a sudden, it went silent, and the whole process wasn't very smooth. I think that's mostly due to technical issues. And again, the Chinese speaking client, she went a little bit all over the space as well, couldn't tell the story. And the Honda dealer, I think he sounds like a tradie, very rough kind of guy. Just like, oh man, you're doing much better without an interpreter. I don't even know what he's talking about. Okay, people will begin to complain about the interpreter. They're basically blaming you, the interpreter, for not doing the proper job, because look, it is not your fault. I'm just basically interpreting all the nonsense that your client tells you. Okay, if your client says nonsense, it's not our jobs to make it sensible. So it's okay. You technically, ethically speaking, you don't really have to make sense of what you hear, but make sure you understand the meaning of it and try to usher it as close to the way of your client ushering as possible, and it's up to them to make sense of what they say. So maybe, of course, that day I think the signal wasn't really good, so it's a bit of cutting out, and they get angry at me. So they get very personal. There are 2 or 3 cases where there's, why are you such a bad interpreter? Why couldn't you get what I mean? You know what I mean. I don't know what you mean. I only know what you said. I can interpret what you said to the other party, but I couldn't guess what you mean. So they get nasty. Okay, they get very rough and start swearing at me, or sometimes saying that you're such a useless person. It's okay. As an interpreter, you don't have to take it personally. Do whatever they want. It doesn't affect you personally, because it's okay. Ethically speaking and professionally conduct, the Aussie Code of Professional Conduct actually allows us this, I would say, vulnerability. We are able to, we are allowed to do everything to the best of our ability. If the line is bad, and then the phone line is being cut off, the signal is being cut off all the time, it's out of our hand. So we've been interpreting what exactly we heard, and we try to do it as accurate and relevant as possible. It's up to them to request for repeat or clarification. It's not our job to do it. So if they get personal, if they start swearing at you, if they start calling you names, saying that you are such a bad interpreter, don't take it personally. Let go of it. They are more than welcome to hang up and call another interpreter. So you still get paid of what you just done, and you still get paid, right? You've done the job. You did what you supposed to do. As the phone line has been cutting off, if they request politely, you can repeat. If they don't like you, they can always hang up and call someone else. You can get a new interpreter. But if that interpreter has a phone line issue as well, there's not much we can do, isn't it? So don't get personal, and remember, you can always quit if they get really, really nasty, start swearing, calling you names, getting in the middle of nowhere, try to make your life difficult, try to make even the operator or the English speaker's life difficult. There are many cases like this. They begin to complain. They don't talk about the issue. They're just talking about how bad the service is. Okay? Just keep calm, interpret what they say. And if they get too nasty and threatening, you can always request to the English-speaking person saying that, well, look, he's getting agitated, he's getting threatening, politely saying that I don't feel comfortable, I feel threatened, and I would like to withdraw from this assignment. And usually, the utility company operator or the professional, the DHHS staff, they understand. They can let you go, and it's okay. It's okay to quit if it gets too stressful, because A, it's for your own well-being. B, if you feel all mucked up in your head, you can't do your job anyways. So it's okay to request for withdrawal. And once you withdraw, don't withdraw because you're getting lazy and you had enough. Withdraw because you feel being so much offended. And if the client is so abusive, you can actually request to withdraw from the job. It's okay. But when you request and first of all, don't just hang up your phone or don't just walk out of the building. First, politely ask for permission for either, okay, can you please control the situation, or I will walk out. And when you do that, try to do it as professionally as possible. Try to talk in a calm voice. Try to go through the stages. But if your client refuses to comply, refuses to cooperate, it's up to them. If they start keep on screaming, keep on swearing at you, keep on being fierce towards you or making you feel dangerous, you should always take care of yourself first. Yeah, it's okay to just move away from the assignment. I'm out of it. Okay, but as professional, always remember, once you walk out of the assignment, always email your agency, telling them that on such and such day, this time, if you have a job number, that will be great. Sorry, then report to your agency about what happened, how abusive they have become, what kind of effect. Tell them that it affects you so bad that you couldn't continue. The agency understand. Everyone is having a hard time nowadays. As long as you follow the procedure, politely request for withdrawal, and report this matter properly, with date, time, names, job number if available, to your agency, you should be fine, because we're all human beings. We can only do things, even as a professional interpreter, we can only do things to the best of our abilities. So it's okay for you to quit. If it gets too threatening, if they're asking, I will kill you, or if you're on a face-to-face sort of environment, someone is trying to be violence against you, always report the matter to the police. Let the police handle it. You don't have to face the dangers yourself. So, and after that, lastly, this is my very last point. If it gets too abusive, if you had too much of it, you can always share without all the details of the names and addresses to your colleagues, asking for advice, asking for their they will comfort you, of course. This is without saying that they will comfort you, give them advice to you, and you can always ask for counseling service. Sometimes your agency may even provide financial support for that. So it's okay. And look for help if necessary. For myself, as a Christian, I'll pray, I'll read the Bible daily. There's so much comfort from the letter of Paul, Apostle Paul, that so much comfort that you can find from the Holy Bible, that it makes me feel loads better despite how bad the assignment went. So, but you can always go for professional counseling. Might cost you a bit of money, but you might be able to claim that on the tax return. Who knows? But it's okay for you to do that. So seek help. Look for ways to relieve this negativity. We don't have to carry this negativity in our life. Okay, it's the matter for the clients to deal with, not your matter. So it's okay. Try to keep calm, keep cool. Don't get angry. Don't get agitated or become as agitated as they are. And you can always walk out of the assignment. You can, always expect things to happen. Once you expect things to happen, you don't get caught off by it. You wouldn't get catch up by it. So it's okay. They won't catch you off guard because you expect, it in this, very, very special time of the year. Throughout the COVID matter, people get stressed out. People get, very agitated. And you are interpreting for those agitated people, such as those in hotel quarantine or those who are facing financial trouble and asking for, reissuing of the energy bill. Those people, they are difficult, and you don't have to take this difficult personally. You can always properly interpret what all those swearing, threatening words that your client says in English. So let those people deal with it. And if you, throughout this, process of being a mouthpiece, and you feel uncomfortable, you can always step aside, request for withdrawal from the job, or seek for professional counseling service. So it's okay, and you can always, come and watch my video. That will do. That I think it will give you a nice time hearing my monotone voice, a bit of hand gesture. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. So yeah, that's basically what I would like to share for my experience in the light of recent COVID environment, and I hope it will be helpful to your future career as an interpreter. So yeah, uh, take care of yourself. May God bless you all. Have a great day.